what I really want to talk about today, which is sync music deals and how they work differently for the two of us. I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people who follow me have always been in the library space from watching people like Jesse on Sync My Music, which is and he's great at it, and he's made a lot of money on it. And then there are people who watch my show and are in my Discord who make multiple six figures just feeding libraries every single day, doing briefs and or just putting new songs up or making albums for them, and they amass thousands of songs, and that those thousands of songs continue to make them a lot of money. It's a much lower pressure thing than having to go to someone, knock on a door, and find a music supervisor that needs the thing you have at that moment, or working briefs where it's a little bit more of a hard road because you have to work for a client basically and give them exactly what they want, versus just having the thing and send it to your rep and saying, hey, what do you think of this? Can you use it for anything you got right now? I talk on this channel all the time about how I feed exclusive libraries, but I think since you're here, I'd like to get your thoughts on the direct deal in Sync and how that began for you, and exclusivity, and I'll ask you some questions as we go.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, my background is as a producer and songwriter first. Like, anytime I say artist, I never had aspirations to be be a front man, like be out there, like playing that game at all. So, like, I always just wanted to be the dude sitting in the studio making the songs. Really, like, what a lot of my stuff for Sync is these days is I make songs, whether it's for one of my artist projects, contradictory to what I just said a few minutes ago. I now have multiple artist projects. Or if it's collaborating with some of my friends' other artist projects that are legit artist projects, we will go make songs for one of those projects with Sync at the forefront of our mind. And then I have she's exclusive in terms of the songs I give her, which is the vast majority of my work. Her name's Katie Jellin. Her company is Honestly Good Music. And she just takes on those songs and pitches them for all sorts of opportunities that come across her desk, which is TV, film, ads, promos, trailers, the whole thing. She's working, a whole bunch of stuff at all times. It's Katie, and then another person named Millie. Millie was at Warner Chappell for a long time, and Katie was at Warner Chappell and Secret Road before that. So I got connected with Katie when she was at Warner Chappell years ago through a good friend and frequent collaborator of mine, Brandon Ray, and then we connected and stayed in touch, and she repped some of my stuff. Then when she went out on her own to start her own company, she reps pretty much all my stuff exclusively, aside from the music bed stuff for the most part. And so what those deals look like is you go write a song with Sync in mind, hand it off to her, and it's a split. The standard ranges for those deals are typically 75-25 in the artist's favor, all the way up to 60-40, I would say, is the common range. Some people are trying to do 50-50 and are doing it.
And that 60-40 is the Sync side, right?
That is for a Sync placement. So this is where I know it gets a little different than libraries, because so it's a Sync comes in. Let's say $10,000 comes in on a placement for round numbers, and I did it 100% myself. And we're not talking about PROs on the back end. $10,000 for a Sync fee comes in, and let's say my deal is 75-25 in my favor. $10,000 will get paid to the licensing rep. She'll keep $2,500. She'll pay me $7,500. Then I still own all my writer share with BMI, who I'm affiliated with, and I still own, because I'm no longer in a publishing deal, but have been before. I own all my publisher share, and then, if that song goes on to do whatever it does, depending on the terms of broadcast, in 6-9 months, a year, whatever, I'll see all the writer share and publisher share. Or if it's a co-write, I did 50-50, my 50% writer share and publishing share on the PRO. So that's,
and this is where things really change from the library, feed the library route, where you're going to, they are signing a normal, what we would call a normal publishing deal that a publisher would sign you to and take all the publishing. They would take 100% of the publishing, you would get 100% of the writers, and you would split any sync fees that might come in. The sync fees on the library side are not like sync fees like you're talking about, because sync fees come in, and while you can ask your library what came in, let me see the books, no one does that. And so how are you going to know that the $300, $500, $1,000 of sync fees is really half of what they got? And also when you're working with a library that's like with BMG or Warner Chappell or something, Warner Chappell is taking their cut, and then it's going to the sub library who is splitting it half and half with you. So it's a whole different deal than a straight deal. Now, here's my question for you with that $10,000 scenario. How many of those are coming in at a time, and how many do you work on at a time?
So this is where kind of going back to the not chasing briefs. Like I am building a catalog of music at any given time. So I like when I'm doing my one song for the quota this week, I know I'm shooting for this target that's going to be either with this project of my own or my own with a collaborator or with a friend, and I'm going to hand that off to the person. Like not sometimes there'll be like, hey, and I've had a few things land this way where it's like, hey, this brand needs a song like this week. Can you do it? And I'll take a shot at it, and that doesn't guarantee I'm going to get it. And more times than not, honestly, you don't land it, but then sometimes you do. But for the most part, a normal week is I just make my song, again, with sync in mind, knowing, okay, these types of things.
That term right there that you keep saying, I've been trying to drill this into people's heads for about 2 years. We write songs like, and now when I work with artists who aren't interested in sync, I still make them think that way. All right, let's write the song, but let's not make it so like pointed towards your boyfriend that it could be useful for a lot of uses other than just, a song to a boyfriend. It's got, with sync in mind means a lot of things, but mainly what it means is it's very useful for a lot of uses down the road.
Yeah.
Maybe a specific use for one time, but it could also be useful down the road over and over. So even when we're writing for libraries, we think that way.
And yeah, and I think like how you figure out like what you're shooting towards is like, hey, go watch a bunch of ads, go watch a bunch of trailers, promos, whatever, and then figure out what you naturally do well, or maybe you plus a collaborator, what the combination of you guys naturally does well, and then figure out, okay, we already do this thing, so if we just put an ad hat on, we saw these songs in 10 different ads that all kind of have the same feel. Well, what if we just did that? So that's what I mean when I say keeping sync in mind. So I'm doing my songs, handing them off to my licensing rep, and then doing, as somebody who's strategic and calculated and all that, doing the very best I can to just get those songs out of my mind, not be precious about them, move on. Because guys, like in order to make good money in sync in music, it is an incremental consistency over time game. I do multiple six figures a year from nothing other than music at age 30. There's not one giant earth-shattering hit. Paying for that, I dropped out of college 10 years ago with no money and didn't know how I was going to do it. So I'm here to tell, like, I just say all that to say, like, it is 100% possible, but don't think you're going to write one song or two songs or three songs and it's going to happen for you. Like, you have to be so incredibly long-term minded and delay gratification and write a song, even if you think it's the best song you've ever written, write it, hand it off to your people, enjoy it for a day, and move on and go do another one.
That's why this question right here that we got from Swift says, hi, I'm from Norway. I'm an assets creator for Line 6, entering my 6th year. I'm also a songwriter, audio engineer, producer. How lucrative sync licensing can be in 2025? Well, that's not it's very, but the problem is you can't think of it like, how much am I going to make in 2025? Because it may take a while to build that up, like years to build to that point. You didn't just jump into this on day one and say, I'm going to start making sync money. You produced for years before that happened.
Yeah, produced for years, got my skills up. Like I listened to stuff I did for labels for hire as recent as a few years ago, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm so like I would have produced that same song so much better today because I've worked on I've spent how many hours since then working to just continue to get better. And then that your question of how lucrative can sync be, extraordinarily. I know tons of people, multiple six figures a year, sync alone, but they have put in their reps. They've put in their 10,000 plus hours. They're world-class songwriters, world-class producers. So I think you have to know that if that's what you aspire to do, one, it's possible, but you got to set your bar really, really, really high for your work, and just don't lower the standard for your songwriting, production, mix, master, every single part of that.
The quality's got to come first before quantity.
Oh yeah.
You've got to have that quality before you even think about quantity. Now, when you've been talking about a sync rep a lot on this, and by sync rep, just so everybody knows, that is just also means sync agent. It's the same kind of a person. And everyone asks me this same question: where do I find a sync agent? I mean, we can really tell them how to find sync libraries because you literally just do a Google search for libraries that and you find them. But I have found sync agents, sync reps to be much more hard to find, not advertising themselves maybe as much, except for the people who are doing YouTube content about it. Because I don't, and of course, it's not something that I've really gone after because I don't produce from the artist's perspective all the time. Sometimes I'm probably about half and half vocal music versus instrumental music, but even that, I'm writing an album of jukebox country music, and it's a very focused album of stuff. And from what I understand, and here's the biggest question I have for you about sync reps. Do you think you're more attractive to them because you are a producer / artist in a way like Timbaland is, or in a way like, and you have a artist brand and that is a little bit more attractive to them than you just come in saying, hey, I'm a producer and I've got some songs, or do you think it matters to them?
Well, I would say I actually really started more as the first one where, hey, I'm a producer and I have some songs, but like it's me plus this artist and they're the artist. We just split the thing 50-50. And then since then, like one of my artist projects is called Outskirts. It started as me and my buddy just writing songs, the two of us, for hype sports, anthemic rock. And it was only sync focused at first. We got a couple placements, started putting the thing out to streaming, and very strategically have grown that to hundreds of thousands of monthly listeners. So like that was an accidental artist project that was like, hey, well, we have a batch, me and this other guy have a batch of songs, like let's do that. I have another project, Christian, Christivn, because you got to spell things like a trendy hipster, right?
Look how you do. You look very trendy there.
A buddy of mine who does styling made us look cooler than we are. I put on a costume for a day. It's something. And yeah, I have another project, Christian, where me and a girl did like 5 covers, and then I put my song on a voice that ended up in a movie, like that just like I put under that moniker. But I don't think what initially made me attractive to sync agents was an artist project, because I didn't have that. I would say it was just a consistent volume, like it was enough of a body of work that was high quality. Of here's these songs that are high quality, high bar. And I would say if you want to find a sync agent, a sync rep, like I have, you said they don't really advertise, but you can find all the ones that come to mind that sort of are like the main players in that game. I don't want to give out their names because I don't want them to get a bunch of spam emails, but the people in Nashville and LA with a little Google search or Chat GPT or whatever, you can find them. But I want you to think about this before you hit these people up. Always think about hitting someone up for your music from a place of how can I add value to them, not how can I be an annoyance to this person and be one of the other 100 people that are knocking on their door saying, hey, I need something from you. I have a song. Can you take it on? And putting like all of the ownership on this person for making your career happen. So my friend Katie at Honestly Good Music, she told me, I don't know what the current stats are, but maybe about a year ago now, she said, just so you know, like, because we're friends and she was saying this, she's like, I have 50 new submissions from people right now wanting me to rep their music that I haven't even listened to yet. Yeah. So in addition to taking care of her current roster and pitching for spots that are coming in all the time, she has 50 things sitting in the queue right here. So if you're one of that 50 in the queue for the person, think about how can I add as much value as humanly possible to this person, and think really honestly to yourself, like, is my music great? Like, is it, take your bias and your ego and all of that out of it, like, is it as good as the stuff landing the spots that you hope to land?
I've always
and if it's not, that's cool. Just know that it can be. Like, the crap I did not all that, like 5-6 years ago, was like not that good. But the beautiful thing is, like, you can get good at the skill of making music. You just have to be okay with playing the long game and putting in your reps.
And so wouldn't you say that 90% of what they're going to choose is likely going to include vocals?
Yeah, I'd say the vast majority, and even
they're not looking for orchestral hip hop instrumentals,
For the most part, no. Like, I have a And that's where I would say Music Bed is different. Music Bed is fine with instrumental only.
Yeah.
Like I have a SoFi ad that's been running for a year now, and it was an instrumental only. You would hear it and probably think it was the library track, but it was actually a song with a vocalist on it at first that they just used the instrumental. So
Of course,
the sync
sure.
the sync reps are much more likely to want a song plus the instrumental.
But they're going to want
whatever
a
reason.
face maybe to put together with that song, probably.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you
even
think?
if it's not, yeah, even if it's not like you have to go be like, One Republic, the biggest band in the world, even
Sure.
if it's just like a moniker. But as more and more time goes on, it's like the thing I did with Outskirts. It's like, okay, well, we already did the work and we built these songs and we put it under this fake name Outskirts that we spelled incorrectly on purpose. And so let's go put it out there on Spotify. Then we put a song out there on Spotify, and like all new artists, it got like 0 streams in the first 10 minutes. So we're like, okay, well, what do we do about this? And we're like, it's like when you've already done the work of making the songs. Like in some ways, that's like the hard work's done. So what if you just spend a little bit of time being strategic and learning to grow the stream? So that's where like sync and streaming and growing a brand. And then like what's
Yeah.
cool now is people like with Outskirts alone. We got an email from a library this week hitting us up saying, what do we have to do to get you in our library? And we're not going to take it on because we already have a better deal in place.
Sure.
But if you go create your own brand, people will then start to find you. Or even if, I connected directly with a music supervisor this week. I sent him a DM on Instagram because I found out his agency had licensed one of my songs before. It's like this value add thing. And I said, hey, thank you so much. And we went back and forth a little bit. And at the end, I said, hey, like you've already used my music before, but if I could ever be of help for you again, like never hesitate to reach out, even if it's last minute, whatever. And he's like, absolutely, will do. I think the vibe of that was a lot different than like maybe sending a cold email of like, let me knock on your door. Like, so you just have to think about like how you're approaching them and genuinely be looking to add value to those people. And if you can do that, like I think a misconception about the music industry is it's like closed off and everybody already has all the people they want and like are never looking to add talent. It actually couldn't be further from the truth. Everybody's always looking for the next thing and always looking for the shiny new toy and the new guy, the new girl, whatever it is. So
Getting back to one more question about the sync rep thing. If I do things right, I could get hundreds of songs into libraries. Now, whether they be used or not, who knows, and the deal won't be as good. You would look at this year and think, how many songs would you get into some kind of sync deal? Like over the course of the year? 50, since you want to do one a week? Would that
Yeah.
be best case?
Yeah, I mean, I would say they all will go to someone, whether it be Music Bed or my friend Katie, or in the Outlier, I'm working with a artist friend that maybe has their own version of
Right.
Katie, and we just give it all one stop to them. But
Yep.
yeah, pretty much everything. But I also know that every single one of those songs, for the most part, is going to go out live to streaming. Like next week, I'm doing a session with my friend. He's got a great YouTube channel too. Rapper Manifest. He has a channel called
Yeah, I know
Smart Music
Manifest.
Business. Yeah. So we're doing a thing. We've done a few songs. We're doing a thing that we're gonna target for sync, but we also know that it's gonna come out to streaming, and he has 500,000 monthly listeners or whatever it is. And like our worst case scenario is we will make some money on streaming, and that's maybe a difference in sync rep, sync agent versus library, where libraries are like, don't go put it out there.
Yeah.
The sync agents are like, please go put it out there, go build your brand, because that's only gonna help us.
Yep.
Uh,
And then you get the double whammy of not only of getting your following on Spotify listing, but everybody shazamming the song once
Yeah.
it's on TV. They're like, this is a cool song. I just had this happen to me. I had a Love is Blind placement right at the top of the show, and I still get shazams all the time for that song. And it just shows you the power of
Wild.
streaming alongside that. Do you send the song to Katie and just say, what do you think? You got any uses for this? What's the conversation there?
Well, if Katie's watching, she'll tell me what she thinks, even if I don't ask. Uh, Katie will usually sometimes give a small note or two. She knows I have a really, really high bar, and I'm not going to waste her time like giving her something that's less than done. Sometimes she'll have a small mix tweak. It's very rarely at this point like, hey, go overhaul the whole thing. But yeah, like earlier on, or if I know she's working with a newer artist or a producer, she'll be much more collaborative.